As we move into the 17th century, the status of artists is also changing. Anthony van Dyck and his contemporary Diego Velázquez, who was in the Italian lecture, are the first two court painters who are also preeminent painters and celebrities in their own day to work as court painters rather than maintaining an independent studio or working under the patronage of a wealthy noble or a wealthy aristocrat. Van Dyck worked at the court of Charles I in England, and many of his paintings are associated with that court, even though Van Dyck himself is actually from Northern Europe, today what would be called the Netherlands. Artists like Van Dyck and Velázquez completed the transformation of artists from a blue-collar craftsman that we see in the Middle Ages through the gradually increasing status of a gentleman artist in the Renaissance, and as we enter the Baroque period, the artist is considered a true gentleman, somebody who's wealthy, educated, and fit to rub elbows and even carry diplomatic messages between kings and rulers, like we mentioned with Rubens before. Artists are also starting to break away from the protection of artists' guilds. Guilds are a remnant of the medieval period, but they're also very much associated with the Catholic Church. For instance, painters' guilds are often called the Guild of St. Luke, and that identification with a named saint, who is the patron saint of your profession typically, is a hint at that connection between the guild and the church. And artists like Van Dyck and Velázquez were seeking new opportunities. Another kind of opportunity that started to occur in the 17th century is the invention of academies of fine arts. One of the earliest and most famous is the French Académie des Beaux-Arts, or as it was known at the time, the Academy of Painting and Sculpture. And this was founded under the urging of this artist, Charles Le Brun. Le Brun is probably best remembered today for his work in the Hall of Mirrors and his interior decorations for Louis XIV at the Palace of Versailles, but the Academy of Painting and Sculpture was founded by court officials at Le Brun's urging, and he was the first powerful painter within the Academy. It was technically founded by Louis XIV, although he was only 9 years old when this happened, so the actual responsibility should probably mostly go to his mother, Anne of Austria, who was the regent for his early reign. But this founding of the Academy and the increase in artistic production and artistic prestige of France is very much associated with the reign of Louis XIV. So these new ways of being an artist are evolving in the 17th century. This idea of academies of fine arts will spread, and other countries, including England, will found similar academies, mostly in the early 18th century. But here again we see a change in the type of person an artist is considered to be. They start off at the very beginning of this class as craftsmen. They gradually become more respectable, and this is really a high point for artists in the 17th century, that they are considered the near equivalent of the aristocracy. Ultimately, that status as we move into the 18th century is going to slip. The academies of fine arts are used to help redefine the position of artists as craftsmen, although wealthy and educated ones often. But these changes and these breaks away from the guild system that's associated with the Catholic Church often play into the new styles and the new art markets that are consuming these new types of painting made in Northern Europe in the 17th century.